from B. So let's go M and minus A from B. And set this to minus. Let's have a look at this. So this isn't working for us. We want to minus A from B. Now what we want to do is plug a red color into this mask here. So we can bring all this over here and let's add in a constant. And let's set the color just now to red. We can change that later on. So I'm currently viewing the alpha here. Let's view the RGB. And what we want to do is basically just merge A over B. And this here, let's view this. And this is going to be a soft light operation masked off by the mask that we have created here. And there we have it. Now let's go about adding some distortion to the parts of the footage that are behind this laser wall. So to start, I think we'll add some chromatic aberration, and that will happen to the plate before it gets the red laser merged atop of it. So what we can do is add in a dot node here and begin. So to begin, let's basically just split the footage up into 3 different channels, red, green, and blue. And if we just view this here, this is what we're working with. And we only want this effect to occur in parts where the laser is happening. So I think the mat for that was somewhere here. Let's just check. This is the alpha that we need. So I'm just going to add another dot node here. And what we can do is create our effect and then mask it off. So what we want to do is split up the channels. So to do that, let's view this dot node here. And what we want to do is just shuffle. Now we don't actually want this part to join from the shuffle. And in this shuffle, we'll call this one just the red. And what we'll do is, we want the red to be red, but we want to shut off the green and blue. So we just have the red channel here, and we can keep the alpha solid. And let's copy this, paste it, double click. This will be the green channel. Green, so the green is green, but the other channels are switched off. So if we view that, that's what we get. Let's get blue in here. Blue. And blue is blue, but everything else shut off. Let's view this. Nice. Okay, so what we want to do is transform these a bit. So we can do it quite a few different ways. Chromatic aberration, you can offset each channel by say 1 pixel. You can scale, you can rotate. I think in this case we're going to scale, and what that will do is cause more chromatic aberration on the edges of frame, which I think will be fitting for this. So let's add transform to the red and blue channels, because these are the 2 that I like to transform. You can get different chromatic aberrations by transforming different combinations of the red, green, and blue channels. For the red, let's go a scale of 1.01, and for the blue, let's go a scale of 0.99, and then let's plus these back together, so merge A plus B plus C. So just adding 2 merges here, and we'll set them both to plus, and that will essentially get us back to square one, but we have these transformations. So if we have a look here, you can see that that scale was probably a bit too much. So let's just organize ourselves here. And with this transform 0.999, let's go 0.005, and for the blue 0.995. Okay, so now we have less chromatic aberration, but we still have a nice amount. So if we have a look here, we can see that the alpha is actually 3 when it ought to be 1. It's because we plussed all the channels back together. So let's just add in a clamp, and that will clamp the alpha at a value of 1. And now let's merge this back into our tree. So A over B. Now if we have a look at this here, that's just putting A on top of B, but we don't want it to be everywhere. We basically want to mask it. So if we drag the mask port and mask it based off of the shuffle here, which was shuffling the roto into the RGB channels, and that means that we have our chromatic aberration where it ought to be and not where it shouldn't be. So now that we have this here, what we want to do is in here, instead of using this, we want to take the grade and plug it into this merge operation. And now if we come up here to our transforms and disable them, you can see that's without chromatic aberration, that's with. So we might be able to go a little bit more aggressive with this. All depends on your taste. I think I'll leave it at the subtle versions and maybe come back to that later on if we need to make any adjustments. But this here is our chromatic aberration, so just backdrop this. Okay. Now what I think would be cool is if we added sort of a blur to the anything behind the laser, but again, like our chromatic aberration, it only happens, or it happens more severely on the edges. So to do that, let's create a sort of a matte or a like a Z-blur map, so that we can tell our blur node how exactly we want to blur it. And to do this, let's grab the information. Actually, let's go down, let's grab the camera information here, and actually the card as well, and paste that over here. Okay, so let's take a look at this node here. And let's grab the footage so that we can actually see what's going on here. So instead of just being this black solid, I want to add in a shape. So let's hit P to add in a shape, and this shape here will be white. And that defaults to white, which is good. So let's draw a Bezier shape. Something like this. So let's go to select all and sort of create a shape that is just sort of circular. So we'll even it up a little bit. And currently anywhere that's black will be blurred. So just hit Z to smooth the points if you need to. Now let's go into shape and set the feather to maybe 500. Increase the fall off. Let's maybe bring this up a bit. We can tweak this more thoroughly once we know exactly how the blur is going to look. But let's just disable this for a moment and basically use this as a Z blur node, so, or map rather. So let's add in our Z blur, ZD focus, sorry, and we'll apply this after the chromatic aberration. We'll apply this here. So this is the image, and we want to apply this CD focus before we get into the laser matte backdrop. So I'll bring this down here and sort of organize ourselves a little better. Place this in here. So maybe that will help us a little see what we're doing a little bit easier. So my apologies, I've made a mistake. What we need to do is, instead of plugging that in, this is the image, and we actually need to shuffle in the depth channel. So let's add in a shuffle copy. And from 1 to 2, we need to shuffle in the RGB into the depth channel, in this stream here. So RGB, or we could just do the red channel, and then that would go into the depth. Now we should probably disable these features just because they will get added into the depth channel. And with the focus plane, let's just set this to 0 for now, because the best way to set this up is to look at the focal plane setup. And currently, let's turn up the depth of field, turn it to 0, set the focal plane here, and then let's go back to the result. So this is what we want, this in focus, that out of focus. Let's add size 20, the maximum of 20. That's looking good. And what we can do is maybe tune the rotopaint node here. So let's change the feathering in the shape. Oops, sorry, it's actually this rotopaint node here. Feather fall off, let's go 20 feather fall off. And let's just view this here, view the card rather. Sorry, view the render. And we can grade this down. And let's take a look at what we're getting. Okay, that looks good, except I think it's probably a bit too much. So let's go 10, 15. And then let's mask this by the shuffle that we had here. So mask that there. Let's take a look at the end result. So this looks okay, but the problem is that we got rid of a lot of the detail when we added in this blur. So what we need to do is come up to the top here and grab this HV40 grain and place that here.